A voice, a famous voice, speaks about an admiration that spins into the very practice of thinking itself. Thinking as a kinetic journey through the world of the living, dead, and yet to be born. An 8-minute YouTube video in which Michel Foucault speaks about Gaston Bachelard. Can we have the video? 10 people, the Delhi-based Cybermohalla Ensemble, 5 young women, 5 young men, are listening to it in a language foreign to them, a tongue not heard by them commonly. They are reading the subtitles in words that are all around them, but not always meaningfully present. Over days, they each translate the subtitles, but not all, reach the subtitles from English into Hindi, the language they know well, hearing at the same time, over and over, this voice in French. They keep translating. In the act of hearing, reading, translating, a journey into words, sound, meaning, the familiar and the unfamiliar expands. This journey doesn't have a specific point of reference. Its expansion has no boundary other than that of enacting it for each other. The 10 people read out loud to one another that which they have translated. No one withdraws. Some are even wearing polo necks and rectangular framed glasses. No one claims that it is a precious experience. No one searches from each other an affirmation of their enactment. The built-in default position of partitions and hierarchies, fair or poor, achieved or failed, profound or banal, worthy or unnecessary, does not operate. It is a condition of discerning and playing out your language, emerging from an encounter with another tongue, another gesture, another word. This act of setting out to find takes one to a place of thought, of thinking not to justify, critique, affirm, hurt, become learned, mesmerize. It is a place that cannot get absorbed as personal expression. It is not a technique or a language learned. And yet, it's not a play without transformation. What is this image of thought? A place outside of and away from the established oppositions of dominated and dominant, the pedagogical split of knowledge and ignorance, or the resentful reverie of the disenchanted. Here to enact thought, you have to pull in that which is an outside to yourself. This outside to oneself is not the realm of experience. It is not an emergence or appearance of an outside that was till then dormant, latent, repressed. It is a creation that the creator does not know or own as his or her own. It is a move towards a question, which is not through a familiar known or through any subjects. In this enactment, a separation within ourselves blurs or diminishes its hold. You act not as one, but through an unfolding of multiple movements between being a translator, a writer, an interpreter, a chronicler, an author, an editor, a performer, a copier, a thinker, without having caused or committed yourself in the process to have become any of these. You build, gather, bring things into an acceleration and accretion, becoming open to possible collisions and interferences over an indeterminate and dilated duration, along with many around and with you. It's almost morning. In a South Delhi residence, a few people, one of whom is a man of 60 and has thought about and intervened in industrial conflicts for 3 decades, have sat through most of the night talking, formulating a text for a workers' paper that is read widely. The management of Maruti Suzuki, the market leader in automobiles in India, has closed the doors of its production plant in Manesar, near Delhi, disallowing workers entry till they sign a good conduct bond, a demand in reaction to the 13-day sit-in by the workers inside the factory the previous month. Maruti Suzuki earns the government revenue of millions of rupees each year. A strong battalion of police has been stationed inside and at the factory gate. One by one, all sentences of the text attempted the previous day have been shed off, save one. The default position of hierarchies, even of critiques, dead and alive, evil and good, oppressor and oppressed, have to be inoperationalized in thought. At stake is a search for a language that can think the force of the living, that is the decision of the young men to stay outside the factory gates, to think this in its own terms. Being searched is a new image of thought that can hold its own away from representation of heroism or caution, from duplication of other events, from the familiar, practiced, and known. The one sentence remaining from the last text, and with which the new text the night would compose was, Let us celebrate those 13 days that you will perhaps always recall as among the most memorable in your life. It was a decision influenced by another sentence which says, one has to be prepared to receive brilliance in one's life. This is a line in a text by the Cybermohalla Ensemble, invented by them in response to what they call the 11th questions. That is, questions that arise when we have exhausted the round of questions around work, relationships, and leisure. Two parallel lines of development of questions, searches, and thoughts met and emboldened each other. Now both could freely open themselves and disperse with a renewed confidence, asking, power prepares its eyes in such a way. But if one were to appear before power dancing, how would it recognize us? How then would it to us? A laughing and tantalizing question from the ensemble in their search to find a way to enact the pirate sense of world-making. Friday. The day has dawned, especially for me. I got back home at 4 in the morning. 180 rupees for electricity, bought milk for 10 rupees. What does it mean to belong to everyone? When the cool twilight sky turns deep blue and becomes an image of limitlessness, it produces a restless interruption. That thing which belongs to the entire world, that thing which evokes desire or any sensation at all in the body or the mind, somewhere it builds a connection between us all. It was the best day today. Friday. Bus fare, 2 rupees to go, 2 to return. Attendance at 6:40 a.m. It's now 6:30 p.m. I'm writing my diary. Sharing one's experience, letters and books is to collide with the world. It's a busy life. Everything else is ordinary. These two diary entries from a long and dense series. In 2004, the Cybermohalla Ensemble encountered late Hira Prasad's diary of the transactions that enveloped him through his life. From being readers of Hira Prasad's diaries to being their transcribers, to commentators, to trying to fill something into them, to working to communicate through them, over 6 years of perplexity and innumerable attempts, the ensemble slowly calibrated its relation with the diaries to becoming their, or we can say the diarist's, friends. Of coming into a thought-making with the diarist, of thinking as folding into the diary entries, of building thought and a conception of life with a life not the same as theirs, and yet bringing in a force of expression indistinguishable from it. Arriving at a simple evaluation of the day as a quality, a day well spent or a busy day, of enunciating the thought of being born in connection with the world. And is that not all, after all, what we, all of us here, came hoping we will say of today, this Friday, when night falls and the day ends, and we renew again our thinking about life and its multifarious potentials and possibilities. Thank you.